guys, ZaneHyde here, bringing you another replay review, this time from a Low Masters SL game, from the perspective of Bruiser Sonya. So what I'm going to build this game is full W build. We're going to go Furious Blow at 1, Shattered Ground. At 7, I'm going to opt for Battle Rage to help me do Mercenaries a little bit quicker, and because the burst healing that comes in from Battle Rage helps me to protect myself against a Genji trying to finish me with an E, or a Tychus trying to finish me off with a grenade. At 10, we're going to opt for Wrath instead of Leap, because we're not looking for a one-shot, we're looking for long sustained fights. At 13, we're going to go No Escape to help us sidestep some abilities. At 16, we're going to opt for Giant Slammer to upgrade our damage and give us just a tiny bit of sustained healing in fights. And at 20, if we get there, we're going to look for Ignore Pain to help us survive after the Tychus bursts us down. Now, right here at the beginning of the game, I'm going to do a tank maneuver. Generally, you would see an ETC or a Garrosh do something like this, where they go all the way around and try to get into the aggressive side bush. Unfortunately, I do get sniffed out by the enemy Genji. I throw a spear trying to catch him, but I miss. And at this point, there's nothing really for me to do on the first wave. I can over-aggress and look to try to clear, but it's better off for me to simply rotate out because I don't want to trade into Tychus Johanna, and there's no way for me to safely damage them without wasting a lot of my time and my HP bar. I'm going to queue forward into the wave, trying to hit Gazlo, and then I'm just going to spin on the wave, get some HP, and here's where I make a couple of mistakes in the 1v1. Firstly, I miss the globe. Secondly, I overcommit while his turret is prioritizing me instead of backing up. I could have definitely taken that 1v1 a little bit better. There were a couple of mistakes that, if corrected, would have allowed me to play just a bit more optimally, and maybe would have allowed Zavalosh, who I am partied up with, to find the kill with a Rhaegar bite. As it is, we're going to head over to the Bruiser camp. You can see my camera movement is a little bit sporadic. I'm kind of staring at my minimap and absently moving my camera around while I try to figure out what's going on with the rest of my team. And here's something I kind of wanted to talk about this video. Camera movement. It's really important where you place your camera and where you position it on the map, because it changes your perspective of the battlefield and changes what data you're interpreting and what data you're using to make your plans. When your camera is always on yourself, you're not able to get a good picture of what's going on in the rest of the fight. One thing Barcode once told me, Milk and Cookies, as you guys may know, the coach for Team Octalysis, is when you're trying to learn to see what's going on in the big picture, literally move your camera to the space between you and other heroes and try to stare at the space and just kind of let your eyes glaze over and interpret everything in a broad frame of mind. This makes it a little bit easier for you to understand what's going on in the broad perspective of the whole fight rather than the very narrow perspective of what you're doing. Now, W Sonya is fantastic at sieging, and I'm going to punch this wall a couple of times before rotating down to escape the Tychus, who I knew was rotating in because of the minimap. At this point in time, I actually opt to go all the way bottom and try for a kill on Brightwing, who is over-aggressing in her lane. I know she's going to polymorph me, but I'm just looking to catch a spear, but Zagar is able to finish her pretty much without my assistance. I'm going to look to spin a little bit on the wave and a little bit on Genji to get some healing, and then I'm going to quickly rotate into mid to deal with that Bruiser camp that's still pushing. I saw Tychus on the mid wave just a second ago, and there's a pretty big risk of him being in that bush and just minigunning me to death, but thankfully I managed to go just quickly enough to get past him without getting stopped. Right here, we're going to find a bit of clear on the Bruiser camp with our Cassia, and now we have a choice to make, because there's an objective up, and we don't have a global, and the enemy team does. Now, when the enemy team has a global and you don't on Cursed, the correct play for the enemy team is to put their global in the far lane and try to stall out the objective while they get an EXP advantage. But I already see Brightwing top, so I know she's not going to be doing that, and I see the rest of my team rotating in pretty slowly. So I decide I'm going to take this time to try to get an EXP advantage. As you can see at the top of the screen right now, we're both pretty even on levels. Nobody really has a significant EXP advantage. I want to change that up by going to a side lane and pushing as hard as I can. I let my team know, care, you do not have me, so that they don't over-aggress, hopefully, and then I pretty much ignore how their fight goes in favor of smashing this wall down. Now, towers and gates and forts don't give you EXP the way they used to in the good old days. However, knocking over structures is still useful because it then opens a pathway up for your later objectives to potentially get better value by going to a keep wall or potentially straight to the core. At this point in time, I've gotten as much value as I can. I've gotten the fountain. I'm a bit worried about the enemy team rotating on me, so I end up backing up a bit prematurely, but only Genji rotated down to fight me, so I actually could have stayed. I think it's a little bit safer for me to rotate out there, but I think both plays could have been correct. I told my team to just stall if I split push during the objective, so I want them to basically waste the enemy team's time while I make an EXP advantage. And as you can see at this point in time, we're a little bit ahead on the EXP, but not by much. Gazlo's matching me pretty well, 600 points behind. I sniffed out this rotation coming in from mid. I knew the Tychus and the Johanna were potentially going to be looking for me, so I rotate out pretty quickly after clearing the wave. And the only reason I'm able to rotate out there that quickly is because I cleared the wave very, very fast. W Sonya is the absolute best wave clear hero in the game at level 4 and onwards, because she hits the entire wave with her W and is very, very mana efficient. She's definitely up there in like the top 5 of wave clear heroes. Every extra second you spend clearing a wave is a second that could have been spent getting yourself to safety or potentially rotating in on enemy heroes. Now, we're going to have a pretty simple fight right here. Mei's popped her defensive already, and we're already quite low on resources, so I know I'm suiciding by going into the entire enemy team because I don't have any backup. But I do see Tychus is currently channeling his overkill, so he can't use his minigun to pop me down. That's great. I'm going to try to finish him as quick as I can. I put a W on him, an auto attack, but I'm forced to back up because of a stun on the ground from Gazlo. I'm going to look to finish him before I die, but Mei is going to be able to secure that kill with a couple of autos on the backside. I spin desperately trying to survive here, and I maybe could have thrown out a Q if my reaction time were a bit better, but I don't have a charge left on my level 7 heal, so I'm unable to survive the Genji E that's going to come momentarily. That E finishes me off, but this doesn't mean my role in the battle is done just yet. I tell my team, you guys win this, over-aggress, and go on the enemy team. You win that, run at them. I'm letting my team know what their win condition is, and I'm informing them that, hey, you win this, you've got this, just, you know, go forward. Rather than running away. And the reason this is important is even though you're dead, it doesn't mean you can't contribute to a team fight, right? It doesn't mean you can't contribute to what's going on the screen. Your role doesn't end at your hero not being present, because you always have the ability to take the commander slot and try to help out your team with your above eyes perspective. When you're dead, you don't have to worry about managing your hero, so it's very easy for you to see the fight in neutral terms because you no longer have yourself in the equation. Now what I'm going to opt to do is go all the way to top, catch this wave very quickly, and then rotate into mid to catch another wave. At this point in time, I'm noticing Cassia's already mid, and Rhaegar's already taking our siege camp. I debate helping Rhaegar on this camp, but I figure it would be faster if I go to the Bruiser camp, and we take both of those camps simultaneously, so that hopefully they push while this objective is up. So I'm going to queue onto this, and then again, we're just looking for spread damage with the W, right? We're trying to hit as many of the enemy minions as we can at the same time, and at this point in time, Zagara and I opt to actually go and take our boss with my Wrath and her general cooldowns, while the enemy team is going to come fight for that objective. Now, note that we're at 1 tribute to 1 tribute, so I'm not under much threat of the enemy team finding a curse and potentially heavy pushing against us. I do note that the enemy team has capped their bruisers, and I see Johanna, Genji, and Gazlo on the minimap, so the only person who could come fight me on this point is Tychus. As long as Tychus appears in the next few seconds, which he just did in the top lane, I'm perfectly safe to capture this boss. I have a decision to make at this point in time. Do I want to stay bottom and push, or do I want to go top and join my team? I end up deciding to stay bottom and push, but this turns out to be a mistake because this boss is actually going to clear the siege camp that's pushing pretty much by itself, and that means that siege camp isn't going to get value, and that's the main reason I came down here, was to stall the siege camp. However, upon seeing the enemy global in the far lane, I'm looking to see if she's going to teleport in plain view so I can interrupt her teleport with my spear. No such luck. The Brightwing is playing pretty smart. She backs up with a blink and immediately looks to teleport in. At this point in time, I'm just going to clear the wave. I know the siege giant camp behind me is dying to the wave, and now I want to look to clear those bruisers in the mid, or potentially rotate into the fight if my team managed to stall long enough. Unfortunately, my team ends up having a bad arc, and they kind of split themselves from top to bottom. The Zagara is on the far side from the rest of our team, so they don't have a single avenue where they can focus on the enemy team. Unlucky, we're unable to make it in time. Right there, had I popped Wrath, I think I would have been able to kill that Brightwing, but I wasn't expecting her to come back into spear range. Now here's an important consideration. My team is asking why I wasn't there for the objective. They ran the assumption that I was going to rotate in after boss. I could explain to them here that I wanted to split push for EXP, but there's the potential of a misunderstanding happening and this person tilting, so I just opt to say nothing. If you're ever unsure what to say, just stay silent so that you don't end up tilting other people by accident or potentially wasting their time. I find a good spear right here directly onto the Tychus, and he's going to pop his shield. I'm going to spin and then sidestep the Gazlo E that comes in, Perfect, I managed to evade the stun, and at this point in time, I'm just looking to farm a little bit of damage with my Ws, which right there dismounts Genji, and now I'm going to rotate out and look for something to do on the map. So at this point in time, I see the enemy boss is up, but I know we're never taking the enemy boss. There's no situation where we're able to fight that into a Gazlo with Grav Bomb, and a Tychus with In the Rhythm at level 4, who can pretty much melt me from 100 to 0 if he's given enough time to channel. At this point in time, we're just kind of stalling out, and I'm just looking for a little bit of damage on these towers. I know the enemy team has rotated topside, and I'm telling my Zagara to back off because I don't want her to get rotated on. And if we actually go to all vision here, you can see the entire enemy team is clustered on this boss, which is just as we expected. Now, potentially we could have looked to invade that boss, but I think it's a little bit risky with our composition, and Zagara doesn't really want to take an offensive fight. She wants to take a defensive one where she can kind of orient herself, position herself, set up her creep, and allow them to come into her. Right here, I see the Genji, and I snap pop my Wrath and Spear, but I end up missing. I back up right here to see what's going on with my Cassia's backline, and right here, I smell out that the Gaz wants to ult, so I start running away prematurely. Great, I dodged the ult, and now the only thing for me to hit is the enemy Johanna, so I wail away at her with my W and my Q, and now I'm going to look to finish the Tychus while he's in Odin form, so he can't drop to regular form where he'd be more dangerous to me because he can channel his minigun. We fire an avalanche trying to hit at maximum distance, but we don't quite get the Hail Mary, and at this point in time, the fight is done, we've capped the objective, and I just need to rotate top to deal with that boss. While I'm rotating top, I actually see Zagara coming in to clear, so I decide, hey, she's probably got that handled. Why don't I go take the siege camp instead and see if I can get some split push value during the next objective. I quickly move my camera over to where my Cassia is to see that there is in fact a Genji pushing on her, but there's nothing I can do to assist this Cassia, who's pretty far out of position. She manages to get out. I presume she had the Mount talent at 13? No, she did not. She had Gloves of Alacrity, which is an item from Diablo 2. This is pretty good so far for us. We've got a siege camp, we've got a Zagara push going on the top. She can come to our objective whenever she wants, and the enemy team is probably clustered over here. Now, I do a pro gamer strat right here, which is pre-tapping, so I have a bit of extra HP, about this much extra HP to play with, as long as I start taking damage. I want to take damage because I have a heal rolling. So I'm going to rotate very aggressively here and look to eat the Tychus's initial minigun. However, Tychus is not positioned in the bush where he should be. So I managed to find a spear directly onto Gazlo, who is CC'd into death. I get a W and auto attack to finish him off. Great. We've gotten our pick. We've won this objective. Here comes the counter coming in with a Dragon Blade, but there's nothing for Genji to do here because I'm going to continue to slam on him and spin. We're able to find the finish onto Genji, though he does manage to trade for our Cassia, and I'm just going to continue walking forward and pressing W here. It's a very linear playstyle. Press W on whatever's closest and try to splash on things behind. You don't really need to dive very deep with this build. You want to stay on the frontliners and punch whatever's directly in front of you, and then try to splash onto heroes behind. We managed to find a nice pick onto Brightwing here, and at this point in time, we're very, very, very far ahead. Our siege camp in the top lane has actually taken the entire fort and is now pushing to a keep wall. Zagara is pushing the keep wall in the bottom and is beginning to damage the keep, and I'm finding damage in the middle gate on the keep itself. So we're in a really, really comfortable position, and at this point the game is basically won. So I'm going to take this time to review how we got to this winning position in the first place. Number one, we took our camps off cooldown, and that EXP differential made up in a big way when we look and see we have 16 while the enemy team's barely hitting 15. That talent advantage is what allowed us to easily win that last team fight. That and a good flank by me into a spear on the Gazlo, who immediately got CC'd and killed. Secondly, we were able to find a lot of split push value with both Zagara and myself, while the rest of my team stalled out the objective, so we opened up the map. And thirdly, we were able to avoid dying too much in the early game, and we were able to avoid inting, and that prevented the enemy team from getting an EXP advantage while I was pushing the side lanes, so it kept EXP in our favor. Now, you're going to notice a lot of what I just said basically boils down to EXP good, everything else meh. And that's basically the way you want to play Heroes of the Storm, because unlike League of Legends, unlike Dota, unlike, Eternal Return, Black Survival, you don't have items in this game. You don't have a way to go on the map and power up. The only way for you to get stronger and for your team to get stronger is to clear waves and soak EXP. Until level 7, a minion wave is worth more EXP than a kill. So if you simply get more waves than your opponents, you're going to be ahead on the map and ahead to your talent tier advantages. I think my advantage when I reach level 10 before my opponents is an increased 25% win rate. I have a 75% win rate when I reach level 10 first. That is an insane difference between reaching level 10 second. And it's really imperative you try to get ahead in the early game as quickly as you can and then stay ahead by keeping your foot on the gas pedal. Players in SL don't know how to play from behind. They only know how to play from ahead. So it's imperative that you get those early advantages and those early pick opportunities, either turning them into kills off of rotations or just getting EXP off of minion waves so that you can get your team ahead into a winning position and keep them there. Now I'll break down the end team fight. Again, I immediately pop in Wrath and Spear because if I hit that Spear on Genji, that pretty much ends his fight right there and then. I know the polymorph is coming, so I step back to avoid a little bit of damage, and at this point in time, I'm low Wrath and missing a third of my bar, so I'm just going to look to play back until my heal comes up, which is right here. I miss a Spear on the Tychus at maximum range, but that's okay because I'm going to get a shield in from Rhaegar. And now, come on in Slam, welcome to the Space Jam. I'm just going to look to W on the enemy team as much as possible and try to get a little bit of poke healing from that level 16 that gives me a 1.5% damage boost. We get a fantastic stun from the Mei there, and we're able to finish off the entire enemy team, and just like that, it's GG. I'm going to spin on the minion wave to heal myself up, and also, importantly, to give my team the globe. It's really important that you give your team the globe when you're pushing like this, because you can get 3 globes if you get every single minion wave, and that generally keeps your team alive. That's going to cut it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a very quick one this time around, and that's because I want to get a little bit faster of a format with these videos so that you don't feel like you have to slog through a 20-minute video to find bits of information. I'd like to keep it a little bit tighter, aiming for the 10-15 minute range, but do let me know what you think of this format in the comments below, and thank you guys for checking it out. If you're interested in more content, you can check out the Patreon, where you can also get coaching at the $15 tier, and otherwise you can check out the NGS and Heroes Lounge, links in the description, if you want to play some competitive games. That's everything from me, guys. Take care, have a good one, and we'll see you in the Nexus.